We're going to continue to look at into share-based payment, part 2. Okay, this is for subject FAR570. Okay, when we talk about share-based payment, there are 3 types of share-based payment. Okay, the first one is equity settled share-based payment. Okay, in which an entity issue its own equity instrument or those of another member of the same group as consideration for goods and services received. Okay, so this is a situation where a company give their own shares or its subsidiary shares in consideration for good and services. Maknanya instead of you bayar dengan cash, you bayar dengan memberi shares. Okay, that is the first type of share-based payment. Second type is cash settled share-based payment, in which the entity acquire good or services by incurring a liability to transfer cash or other asset to the supplier of those good or services for amount that are based on the price or value of the entity shares or other equity instrument of the entity. So kalau equity shares, dia akan bagi shares ataupun saham sebagai bayaran. Okay, equity in consideration for goods or services. If you have cash settled, this is a situation where at the end, okay, the supplier will receive cash, but the cash is based on the price of the entity shares. Okay, so nampak tak beza dia? Yang pertama, at the end dia akan dapat shares. Yang kedua, at the end dia akan dapat cash, tapi pada nilaian shares of the company. Okay, and the second type of share-based payment is a choice of equity settled or cash settled. Okay, so this is a situation where when you enter into an agreement with the supplier, you have given a choice. Okay, sama ada you boleh pilih ataupun supplier boleh pilih nak equity settle ataupun cash settle. So in choice of equity settle or cash settle, supplier ataupun company itu sendiri diberi pilihan. This is the illustration that I obtained from International Financial Reporting Standard. So we have at the end, if you have cash settle, you will receive cash. For equity settle, you will receive equity. Okay, this is another illustration from the same IFRS box. Okay, you can see that we have supplier provide good to entity, and in return, entity will provide equity or equity related. Okay, and when we talk about supplier, it can be those who provide good, or it can also be employees. Okay, so we look at into the first type, equity settled share-based payment. Okay, type you have 3. Remember, equity settle, cash settle, and also a choice of equity settle of cash settle. So you need to identify type dulu. Yang kedua, you identify, is it service provided by non-employee or is it service provided by employees? Okay, because if you have service or good provided by non-employees and employees, accounting treatment will be different. Okay, we look at into the first situation, equity settle, where service provided by non-employee. Okay, when share-based payments are made for goods and services from the third party, they are recognized at the fair value of the goods and services. Okay, so we have definition of fair value to refresh what we have learned earlier in the topic of fair value measurement. So in here, fair value is the amount for which an asset could be exchanged, a liability settled, or an equity instrument granted could be exchanged between knowledgeable, willing parties in an arm's length transaction. So when we talk about the fair value of goods and services from third party, normally it could be easily ascertainable. For example, if you purchase a machinery from a supplier, okay, it is common for the supplier to provide you with the purchase price. So that will be the fair value of the goods and services. Okay, on the measurement date, okay, the date the entity obtain the goods or the counterparty render the service, because fair value will be different, right, based on the dates. Maybe harga hari ni lain, harga esok lain. Okay, in terms of fair value of the goods and service obtained, when you should consider, it should be when you receive the goods or when you obtain the goods or service. Okay. So you have a situation where the fair value of the goods and services is available. However, in a situation where the fair value of the goods or services cannot be determined reliably, tak ada fair value untuk barang yang you beli tu, the goods or services and the increase in the equity are measured at fair value of the equity instrument granted. Okay, because you must remember you are exchanging between goods and also equity. So mula-mula dapatkan fair value ataupun gunakan fair value of the goods to measure your either asset or to measure the goods that you purchase. So kalau tak ada nilai goods tu, baru you pergi kepada fair value of the equity instrument, because you are exchanging between goods or services and also shares or equity. Okay, so this is another illustration from IFRS book for your reference. Okay, so if we look at into equity settle, what do you debit? You're going to debit asset and credit equity. This is just illustration. For your further detailed reference, you should refer to my example later. Okay, this is example. Okay, we look at into example 1, Militant Berhad. Okay, assume that Militant Berhad bought a piece of heavy machinery that had a fair value of 1.8 million from Claus Heavy Machinery Sendirian Berhad. Okay. On 15 January 2019, Militant Berhad negotiated with Claus on the specification of the heavy machinery. Okay, both parties signed a memorandum of understanding on 1st February. On 15 March 2019, both Militant Berhad and Claus Heavy Machinery agreed to a share-based payment of 250,000 shares for the settlement of the heavy machinery. The fair value of the Militant Berhad shares on that date was 5 ringgit. Okay. Take consideration of the date. Okay, the heavy machinery was shipped to Militant Berhad on 1st May 2019 and received on 15 June 2019, with Militant Berhad share value being RM7.50 and RM8 each. Okay. Each respectively, maknanya pada 1 Mei share price dia RM7.50, pada 15 Jun share price dia RM8. Okay. Payment was settled on 15 of August. Militant Berhad accounting year ended 30th June each year. So prepare the journal entry to record the purchase and payment of the machinery. Okay, in this example, I would like to illustrate the equity settled situation with non-employees where the fair value of the asset is available. Okay, so example 1, share-based payment, which type? Okay, equity settle ke, cash settle ke, ataupun choice of equity settle or cash settle. So in this question, it is equity settle. Okay, you akan dapat maklumat tu bila you baca scenario that is given. Okay, sebab dia kata dia agree untuk bayar dengan 250,000 shares. Okay, and then you need to check, is it employees or non-employees? In this scenario, is non-employees. Okay, so the accounting treatment will be different. Next, do we have fair value of goods and services? For example 1, the fair value of the good is available. Okay, June 15, Militant received the machinery. So on June 15, what you're going to do, you're going to debit PPE 1.8 million, credit your share-based payment reserve. So kita akan credit dulu kepada reserve. Sebab dia belum bayar lagi, dia baru incur an obligation to provide the capital. Okay, pada nilai apa? Kita akan record pada nilai fair value of the asset, sebab fair value of the asset is available. Okay, next, when you make payment on the 15th of August, barulah you credit your share capital. Okay, in order for you to credit your share capital, you debit your share-based payment reserve. Okay, so you can see that share-based payment reserve tu, sebelum you betul-betul buat bayaran, you reservekan dulu in your share-based payment reserve. Bila you dah betul-betul buat bayaran, what you actually do, you tutup balik your share-based payment reserve by debiting share-based payment reserve, credit your share capital. Okay, look at the date and also observe the amount. Okay, next. Okay, next, in example 2, the scenario that I would like to illustrate is you still have equity settle, you have non-employees, sebabnya soalan yang sama, but this time we do not have the fair value of the asset. Okay, soalan yang sama, cuma saya ubah yang tu. Kalau you tengok dalam example number 2, kita tak dapat maklumat pasal fair value of the asset. Okay, tarikh sama, harga share sama. So, what should we do kalau fair value of asset is not available? Okay, so this time yang kita nak consider is when the fair value of goods and services is not available. What should we do? Okay, tarikh nak record sama, when the machinery is received. Account to debit pun sama, because you beli machinery, debit PPE for your heavy machinery. Account to credit is also the same, share-based payment reserve, because it's share-based payment and you belum bayar lagi. The difference that we have here is the amount. In example 2, the amount is 1.8 million based on the fair value of goods and services. But in example 2, since the fair value of the asset is not available, then what you should do, the asset should be valued at the fair value of the equity granted. Okay. So fair value of the equity granted is shown in the working. So the share-based payment stated that Militant will give 250,000 shares. Okay, pada nilaian shares adalah RM8. Macam mana kita nak pilih RM8? Kita pilih pada tarikh yang you record or pada tarikh you recognize your PPE. So it will be RM8. Share price is based on the date the asset is obtained. Okay, tengok tarikh ya. Okay, tarikh dia mesti sama. Share price adalah pada tarikh you recognize your PPE, you recognize your goods or services as asset. Okay, and then method of payment sama. Journal entry for payment still the same, but the only difference again is the amount. Okay, clear? Okay, pertama, you tengok type of share-based payment. Kedua, you tengok non-employees ke employees. Ketiga, you tengok fair value of goods and services ada ke tak ada. So, kalau ada, you guna fair value 2. Kalau tak ada, you kena guna fair value of equity granted. Okay, let's move on to the second type of share-based payment. The second type of share-based payment is cash settle share-based payment. Okay, the entity shall measure the goods and services received and the liability incurred at the fair value of the liability. Okay, until the liability is settled, the entity shall remeasure the fair value at the end of each reporting period and at the date of settlement. Any changes in the fair value recognized in profit or loss for the period. Okay, we have example of cash settle share-based payment there. It's actually come from share price on the date where you recognize your asset or transaction. Okay, 15 Jun kan sama. So tarikh shares adalah pada tarikh tersebut lah. Kita tak boleh ambil RM8 sebab RM8 pada 30 Jun. Okay, kalau kita tak boleh ambil RM5 sebab RM5 pada 15 Jun. 15 Mac kita belum lagi recognize the machinery or kita belum lagi obtain the machinery. Okay, so ingat when you do your cash settle, you're going to credit your liability as account payable. Amount adalah based on the equity share price on the date of recognition. Okay, and then at the year end, okay, you need to remeasure the fair value of the liability at year end June 30th. Okay, so that is the concept of fair value, right? Bila ada fair value baru, you kena remeasure and then you look at whether you have gain or loss. Okay, bukan setakat dalam share-based payment saja, dalam any fair value measurement kan, macam investment property pun you akan ambil consider the fair value pada masa you do the recording. So in here, sekali bila you recognize, you guna share price to get the value of your liability. And then at the year end recording, you kena remeasure the fair value of the liability. So when you remeasure, okay, on June 30th, your share price has already increased to RM8. So you remeasure RM8 multiply with 250,000. Your value of the liability now is 2 million instead of 1.875 million. So you need to remeasure daripada 1.875 to 2 million, you have or you experience an increase of 125,000. This increased amount is the one that you're going to transfer or charge it to your statement of profit or loss. Okay, so kali tengok yang you kira ni adalah CD dia. Dia macam konsep of revaluation lah. Kalau revaluation pun macam mana you letak fair value tu kan, the new value of your PPE. So konsep dia sama. Yang you kira ni bukan yang you record to your statement of profit or loss. Okay, the one that you transfer to your statement of profit or loss is either increase where you debit or is either decrease where you credit. So when you debit your finance expenses in your SOPL 125, you credit your liability account payable 125, you can see that your account payable now has increased. Campur dua ni kan, 1875 campur 125 has increased to 2 million. Meaning that at the end of the year, your liability now bukan lagi 8.75 but it's already shown at 2 million. Okay. And then tu pada Jun 30 sebab bila you nak buat your financial statement, you need to remeasure. Then, when you make payment on August 15, before you make the settlement, you kena lagi sekali remeasure the fair value sebab that is the concept of cash settle. Dia mesti pada harga terkini or the fair value of the shares. Okay, so pada on 15 of August, again the company share price increase lagi to RM8.20. Okay, so now the fair value of the liability RM8.20 multiplied with 250, you have 2,050,000. Okay, so increase lagi daripada 2 million ke 2,050,000, we have increase of 50,000. So before you make payment, okay, you adjust for the increase lagi sekali because it's fair value of the equity. Okay, so you debit your finance cost. Sebab apa you debit? Because it's increase. Credit liability, atau kita tengok pada bahagian kredit lah. You kenalah credit your liability supaya liability you akan bertambah daripada 2 million menjadi 2,050,000. Okay, so now once you already remeasure at its fair value, you can then make a payment according to fair value of liability, yang mana on August 15, the fair value is 2,050,000. So when you make payment, you credit your bank with the amount of fair value. Okay, and debit. Yang ni debit Okay, so you adjust. Yang ni debit liability and credit. Then make sure you adjust. Okay, so try to go through this slide several times if you do not understand, and then you proceed with the tutorial question to test your understanding. Okay, until now we stop here and we continue in part 3.